In this lesson, what we're going to do is take a look at the subdivision surface rollout. This is a very powerful rollout. Wouldn't you say there, Zach?
Oh, yes.
So let's go ahead and take a look. First, I'm going to start off by creating my standard regular box. Okay, so that's good enough. Let's go ahead and come over here, and what I want to do first, let's just go ahead and convert it straight over to an editable poly. Now I'm going to come on down to the subdivision surface rollout. And from in here, what I need to do is first check the use NURMS subdivision for this to actually turn on. So I'll go ahead and check it. And I'm going to up my display iterations a couple, so it's nice and smoothed out. And now, what is NURMS? NURMS stands for Non-Uniform Rational Mesh Smooth. Basically, it's like I'm using a mesh smooth modifier on top of my editable poly. Okay. What's really cool, though, is this is kind of all built into the poly itself. I can come up here, or the poly mesh that is, I can come up here to editable poly. I can go ahead and expand it and select one of my sub-objects and check it out. I get my low-res cage that I can now manipulate, and the manipulations that I apply to it is going to translate over to the high-res geometry.
Very cool.
So if I wanted to come in here and let's say, let's go ahead and smooth this back over, grab Move Tool, and start moving it around. You can see that that information is indeed being passed to the high-res geometry.
Wow.
Now let's go ahead and come over here, and it works with everything. If I wanted to, let's say, grab this right here, and let's just make something really bizarre for a moment. So let's say I bring this up a little bit, out, up a little bit more. Let's see, we'll go up again, but this time we'll bring it in a little bit, and then up, and in just a tad, and then in, down just a little bit more than that. There we go. And come down. And let's go ahead and kind of rotate around. And in some more. And about right there. And then a little bit more. And up. Not quite so much. And let's go ahead and come up. Up. Went a little bit too high. Don't ask me what I'm making. I have no idea. But it's all for a good cause. So there we've created some sort of contraption, I don't know, that's going to be used for, I don't know. So let's go ahead and bring up perhaps one more about right there. And now what I want to do is, just because I'm in there having just way too much fun, let's go ahead and select all these guys. Go ahead and do an extrude by local normal. And let's go ahead and give it an extrusion height. Actually, no, it'd be a little bit more interesting if I do these. Actually, let's go by poly. And let's go with something like that. And one more. So there we go. Now we've created some sort of mechanical something real quickly.
Right.
Now, let's go ahead and come back down here. Oh, by the way, of course, when we come out of sub-object mode, then you're left with what looks like just the final geometry. Okay? So let's go ahead and come back in, down to Polygon, and here it comes. And all the way back down to the subdivision surfaces rollout, and let's start talking about some of the settings we have now.
All right.
First of all, smooth results. What this is going to do is put my final geometry all in the same smoothing group, okay, just so that nothing's faceted, everything's nice and smooth. Now, next thing, we've got two groups, a display group and a render group. And this is really important when you start dealing with very complex geometry. The display, what this is going to do is it's going to control the way that you see your high-res geometry in the scene while you're working, and the way that geometry appears when you render it when the render checkbox is not turned on down here.
All right.
So right now, I'm seeing my high-res with iterations of 2. Basically, this means my amount of detail. So if I go up one more, watch what happens over here to my actual mesh itself. It's going to become more dense. Okay? So be very careful when playing with iterations. You start to get higher and higher and higher, you can get yourself in trouble real quickly.
Really start to lag down your computer.
Oh, yeah. Try changing it up to about 5 or 6 if you're wanting to bring your, max to its knees.
Right.
So anyways, if we want to, we can come down here, and let's say we want to work with a very low iteration setting in the viewport so that we keep our computer nice and fast. But at render time, I want my iterations to be, I'm going to go all the way up to 2. Let's really splurge. Let's go up to 3. I want it to be a lot faster. So let's go ahead and come over here and render this out. And let's see, let's go ahead and go to 320 by 240 so it'll be nice and quick. Render, and you're going to see what we get in here is a whole lot smoother than what we see back here in the viewport.
Wow.
Okay, so let's go ahead and close that out. All right, what smoothness will do basically is the subdivision surface, or NURMS, is going to look at all of the corners, Okay, where all these edges come together. And it's going to look at the actual angle, and then based on the setting that we apply for smoothness, it's going to determine if additional polygons needs to be added in to smooth it out. So watch what happens right now if I start taking my smoothness now. It's actually going to be a little bit easier to see this up here like in the front view. So we'll start turning it down, and we're going to start losing detail. Here it comes. Whoops, went a little bit too fast. So we start losing more and more detail until we get a little bit too low. So there we are down at 0.5, a little bit less, 0.4, and finally we're going to get all the way back to where smoothness is all the way down, almost at 0, and we've got basically
our original shape.
You got it, because the angle, it doesn't, at this point, it doesn't matter what the angle comes in at. It's not going to add any additional geometry, and without the additional geometry, there's no way that we can achieve a nice and smooth look.
Right.
So let's go ahead and set this back up to a value of 1. Okay, so iterations of smoothness for display, iteration smoothness for rendering, same thing. Let's go ahead and come down here to separate by. This allows us, we got 2 different ways basically to allow the NURM subdivision to determine when geometry is placed or additional geometry is added in between 2 polygons that are connected together. And by smoothing groups, what this will do is if 2 different polygons are in separate smoothing groups, then it will not add additional geometry in between them. Keeps them separated so we can keep a hard edge there.
Right.
And same thing goes for materials. And real quick, let's go ahead and see if we can give a quick example of this. Let's come in here for materials. I'm going to grab all of these bottom polygons right here, open up my material editor, and let's just take this very first one, come over here and give a diffuse color of, I don't know, maybe something like blue. And we'll go ahead and assign it. So now we've got one color down there. And what I want to do is come up here to edit and do a select invert. Come over here to this guy, and let's give him something like, I don't know, some sort of pale red. That'll work. And let's go ahead and apply him. So now we'll close. So we definitely have 2 different materials going on. And watch what happens when we say separate by materials. Okay. It didn't add the additional geometry between the 2. So that's why we just lost all of our smoothing right there.
Right.
Okay. And also, look at the bottom right here. The bottom's part of this light red. So if we want the bottom to have this additional detail in there, it needs to have this same material right there on the blue. So this works really good as a demonstration. I can just simply come in here and grab this, come back up here, and then apply the blue down here to it, and look at that.
Oh, wow.
So now NURMS is going to go in there and apply those additional polygons in there for smoothing or rounding out the bottom.
Very, very cool.
Okay, and the final thing I'd like to talk about as far as this rollout is concerned is the update options. Right now, update options are set to always. We make changes, it updates. Well, we can come down here to when rendering. So basically my viewport is going to update only when I get ready to hit the render button or when I hit the render button.
Right.
And then we can also set it to update manually. Okay.
So we actually have to hit the update button after we make a change.
You got it.
Okay.
Okay. So while it's very short, this is very powerful. You'll see me use this method a lot when I'm editing poly meshes. This is very powerful and allows you to get quick, complex shapes, but no time at all.
Very good.
I mean,
very cool.
You know.
Yeah, it was really quick.
Let's go ahead and turn this up. Again, I have no idea what it is that we are making here, but hey, you know. I'm not going to complain. So, oh, by the way, I just updated it, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? Well, let's hit the update button. There you go. Let's go ahead and change that back to always. So anyways, this is going to conclude this lesson right here. Definitely make use of this. And that concludes this section. Thanks.